You know, I think it's safe to say we all want to feel like our lives have meaning, right? Like our work has purpose and we're getting something real out of our relationships.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what we're diving deep into today.
Yeah.
Two philosophies that are all about that search for meaning and purpose.
Right.
And they can actually offer some pretty practical advice too, even though they've been around for like centuries.
Exactly. And you might think, ancient philosophies, what can they teach me now? But these ideas from Karma Yoga and Vedanta, they're surprisingly relevant to our modern lives.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting about them. And, I've been looking into this stuff, and it really does kind of sneak up on you how much sense it makes.
Oh, I know, right?
So, okay, let's start with the Karma Yoga. I know it's called the yoga of action, but it's not about like downward dog or anything.
No, not exactly. It's more about how we approach any action, whether it's something big or just part of our daily routine.
Okay, so it's like being mindful about even the smallest things we do.
Right, and also doing them with a sense of selfless service. It's not about what you get out of it, but the intention behind it. Imagine a chef who's, totally focused on preparing a meal. They're putting all their skill and care into each step, really enjoying the process.
And not just like throwing stuff together to get it done.
Exactly.
It's like that idea of flow state where you're completely absorbed in what you're doing and you don't even notice time passing.
That's a great way to put it. You lose yourself in the action, regardless of the outcome.
So researchers have actually found that being in that flow can like boost your well-being and even help you perform better.
That's so interesting. And it ties in perfectly with what Karma Yoga is all about.
Finding joy in the present moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Finding fulfillment in the doing, not just obsessing over the results. Now, that's where Vedanta comes in.
Okay.
Because Vedanta provides this deeper context. It explores, big questions about the nature of reality, who we really are beneath all the surface stuff.
So Karma Yoga is the how of action, and Vedanta is like the why.
You got it. It's like this. Vedanta teaches that our true self, our Atman, is connected to the ultimate reality. Brahman. It's like we're all these waves, in this vast ocean of existence, all connected to each other and to something so much bigger than ourselves.
I can see how that shift in perspective could be really helpful, especially when we're feeling kind of lost or like things are out of control.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how these two philosophies work together, but
Yes.
let's get practical for a minute. How do we actually apply this stuff to our lives? We're not all living in a monastery or something.
Right. But it's really about making those little conscious changes, in how we think and act. Like, take work, for instance. What if, instead of constantly worrying about getting promoted,
Right.
what if you just focused on doing your absolute best in each task? Finding satisfaction in the work itself.
That makes sense in theory, but what about, in a competitive work environment? Don't we have to focus on getting ahead, getting that recognition?
That's a great point. And it leads us to one of the core teachings of both Karma Yoga and Vedanta detachment.
Okay.
Detachment isn't about, not caring.
Right.
It's about understanding that true fulfillment doesn't depend on what we achieve externally. It's about something deeper.
So we can still have goals and, be ambitious, but not let those things define whether we're happy or not.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between effort and acceptance. Putting in the work, but also being okay with whatever the outcome might be.
Oh, I see. So it's like trying our best, giving it our all, but not getting all hung up on the results.
Yeah, and that's where mindfulness comes in. By becoming more aware of what's going on inside us, our thoughts, our feelings, our actions,
Right.
we create a space, between us and our experiences. It helps us respond in a way that's more intentional, more in line with who we want to be.
Mindfulness. It's such a buzzword these days.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see how it connects all of this together. Like the bridge between Karma Yoga and Vedanta. What we do out in the world and how we understand the world within us.
Absolutely. And one of the most powerful things said about this whole idea comes from the Bhagavad Gita. It says, "Your right is to perform your duty, but never to its fruits. Let not the fruits of action be your motive, nor let your attachment be to inaction."
Wow.
It's pretty profound, right?
It is. I think I need to sit with that one for a minute. And I'm really curious to explore more about this idea of detachment, especially how it relates to, finding our purpose, or what these philosophies call dharma.
Yeah.
But maybe that's something we can dig into a little later in our deep dive.
Definitely.
There's a lot to unpack here.
There is. Yeah, that idea of dharma, it's definitely worth exploring further.
So we were just talking about that quote from the Bhagavad Gita about you're not being attached to the results of our actions.
Right.
But how does that tie into finding our purpose, our dharma? It seems kind of contradictory.
It does, doesn't it?
Huh.
Like on one hand, we're supposed to act with purpose and like really put ourselves into it, but then we're also told to let go of being attached to the outcome.
Yeah, it's like, which one is it?
Right, but here's the thing. Dharma isn't about achieving some specific goal or, fulfilling some predetermined role.
Okay.
It's about aligning what we do with who we are at our core.
It's our true nature. So it's less about what do I do for a living and more about like, how am I being in the world?
Exactly. It's about like cultivating a way of being that's in harmony with what we value, with our strengths, with what we're passionate about.
And I guess when we're acting from that place, just naturally flows into, making the world a little bit better too.
Yes, that's where true fulfillment comes from. When we're aligned with our dharma, we contribute to the well-being of everyone, including ourselves.
This reminds me of that Japanese concept, ikigai. The idea of finding purpose where what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for all intersect.
Oh, totally. There are so many beautiful connections between different wisdom traditions around the world, and that's definitely one of them. Finding your dharma isn't like a one-time thing.
That's a journey.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process of discovering more about yourself. It involves listening to your intuition, paying attention to what brings you joy, what gives you energy, and also what you feel drawn to contribute.
Okay, so what about when we feel lost, though? Like, we don't know what our purpose is, especially when life feels, so chaotic and distracting. How do we even begin to uncover our dharma?
Well, Vedanta emphasizes self-inquiry. It's about like turning your attention inwards and examining your thoughts, your beliefs, even your motivations. It's about asking yourself those deep questions.
Like, what kinds of questions?
Like, who am I really beyond all the roles I play, all the stuff I own, all the things I'm trying to achieve?
It sounds like it's about peeling back all those layers and really getting to know ourselves on a deeper level.
Exactly.
But how does that self-inquiry actually help us figure out our dharma? What are we even looking for?
You start to notice the little things. Those whispers of intuition that kind of guide you towards what feels authentic and fulfilling. Pay attention to what lights you up, what you're curious about, what you feel pulled towards. And sometimes it's about noticing what drains your energy, what doesn't feel right, what feels out of alignment.
So, like, being aware of both those yes feelings and the no way feelings.
Right. And as we tune into our inner world, we start to see how everything's connected. You realize that your own individual dharma isn't separate from, the well-being of everyone else.
I see. It's all connected. I'm starting to see how all of this fits together. Karma Yoga guides what we do. Vedanta deepens our understanding. Mindfulness helps us stay present. And self-inquiry points us toward our dharma. But there's one piece I'm still, grappling with. This concept of Maya, the illusion that Vedanta talks about.
Maya. Now things are getting really interesting. Think of Maya as this veil that kind of clouds our perception, It makes us see separation where there's really unity, limits, where there's actually infinite potential. It's like we're looking at the world through a distorted lens.
So we're basically trapped in a bunch of illusions, thinking that temporary things are permanent and, that stuff is more important than, the spiritual side of things.
Right.
How do we break free from that?
All the practices we've been talking about, karma yoga, mindfulness, self-inquiry, those are the tools for dismantling Maya, When we cultivate awareness of our thoughts and actions, when we act selflessly, when we really explore the nature of who we are, we gradually start to lift that veil.
So it's about realizing that we're so much more than our ego, our desires, even what we think we're limited by.
Exactly. And as we wake up to that truth, we naturally begin to live in alignment with our dharma, our purpose.
I'm sensing a theme here. It's about moving past all that superficial stuff, what our ego wants, and tapping into something deeper, something more true within ourselves.
Yes, that's beautifully put. And it's in that space of authenticity, of being aligned with our true nature, that we find lasting meaning and purpose.
This is all so insightful, but I got to be honest, it can feel a little overwhelming at times,
Yeah.
Like, how do we actually navigate the ups and downs of everyday life while still holding on to these big truths?
That's where equanimity comes in. Remember, we talked about that earlier. It's about cultivating a sense of inner stability so that we can respond to challenges with wisdom and compassion.
So we don't get, totally swept away by all the drama and chaos of life.
Right. But it's important to remember that equanimity is a practice, not some end goal. There will be times when we're super connected to that inner peace, and other times when we get pulled back into our thoughts and emotions. The key is to keep practicing, keep coming back to the principles that help us connect with who we really are.
So it's that balance between accepting things as they are without judging them and also taking action to, make things better in our lives and the world around us.
You got it. And that's what makes these philosophies so powerful. They're not about quick fixes or strict rules. They offer us a framework for living a life that's full of meaning and fulfillment, a life that reflects our deepest values and our highest aspirations.
This has been such a great conversation. I'm really inspired to keep exploring these ideas and see how I can integrate them into my own life.
Me too.
But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how these philosophies can help us, find meaning in a world that often feels so chaotic and overwhelming.
It's funny, right? Like, we live in this world where everyone wants everything right now, instant gratification.
I know.
But these philosophies are all about reminding us that finding meaning and purpose, it's a journey. It's something that unfolds over time. Like, we're always discovering more. It's true. And it's not always easy. I mean, there will be those times when you face challenges or you feel lost or doubtful. But the teachings of Karma Yoga and Vedanta, they're like a compass, and a map to guide you through those tough times.
Okay, so how can these philosophies help us navigate that, especially when things feel so crazy and overwhelming? Where do we even start?
Well, for me, it's about understanding this. True meaning it doesn't come from something out there. You don't just find it in the world, you cultivate it within yourself.
Uh,
In Karma Yoga, it shows us that every action, like even the smallest things we do every day, can be a chance to express our purpose and, to contribute to the well-being of everyone, including ourselves.
so it's like shifting our focus from what's in it for me to how can I be of service?
That's a great way to put it. And then Vedanta comes in and reminds us that we're not actually separate from the world around us, like deep down we're all connected, part of something so much bigger.
Yep.
When you really start living with that understanding, your actions just naturally become more aligned with your purpose, with your dharma.
It's like tapping into like a universal wellspring of meaning, a feeling of belonging that goes beyond our ego and connects us to something so much greater.
Exactly. And that connection, that feeling of belonging, it can be really powerful. It gives you this sense of purpose that isn't dependent on, external stuff, like achieving certain things or how much money you have.
So the meaning comes from inside us, not outside of us. It's about that connection to something bigger than ourselves.
You got it. And that's why mindfulness and self-inquiry are so crucial. They help us really understand our own minds, our emotions, what motivates us. And that allows us to see through those illusions that make us feel separate and alone.
It sounds like these philosophies are offering us a path to a life that has more meaning and fulfillment, even with all the chaos and challenges of like modern life.
They do, but it's important to remember that this isn't about reaching some perfect state of enlightenment. And you don't have to, go live in a cave.
Become a hermit.
Right. It's about incorporating these principles into our daily lives, just making those little intentional changes.
So starting right here, right now, just bringing a little more awareness to our day-to-day routine, acting with more kindness, being more intentional in, how we interact with other people.
Exactly. And as we do these things more and more, we'll find our sense of purpose growing stronger, our relationships becoming more fulfilling, and, well, our lives become a truer reflection of who we really are.
This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening. I feel really inspired to keep exploring these ideas and see how I can make them part of my own life.
It's been a pleasure sharing these teachings with you. And remember, this is just the beginning of the journey. There's so much to discover within Karma Yoga and Vedanta.
So to everyone listening, keep exploring these ideas, keep asking those big questions, and keep searching for that deeper understanding of yourselves and the world around you.